Are you tired of the same old boring casseroles? Well, why not try a queso-role? What exactly am I talking about? Well, if you want a casserole that will come together in about an hour and has some delicious Mexican flavors, I've got the perfect solution for you here. This is my chicken potato queso-role, but you don't have to use potatoes if you want those bites, points, and calories to come down. And I'll tell you more about that in the video. But if you want to see how this is made, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. But who are we fooling? They're usually mine. And today is no exception. I am doing what I'm calling a chicken potato queso roll, because it's kind of like a casserole, but it's made with queso. So why not have a little fun with the name? Now, just to get this right off the bat, I am using Tostitos salsa con queso medium, which is really not all that spicy, especially mixed with everything else. But that's the one I'm using. You can use whichever one you like, but this one is just one bite for 2 tablespoons. And you can also use, I use that Fritos cheese dip when I make my mac and cheese steak. If you haven't seen that one, because it is a classic and it's well loved by many, I will card that here so you can see that. I'll also link it down in the description box. But you could use that Fritos cheese dip. You could use a store brand queso. Whatever you do, just make sure you put it in the recipe builder with the one that you're using, just so it doesn't mess up your bites, points, calories, or macros. Now, let's go over the ingredients. I have here 1 pound of potatoes. I'm using russet potatoes, and you don't have to put them in water. I'm just doing that for the sake of the video so they don't brown out before I get to use them. But that is 1 pound. Cut into bite-sized pieces, which I do about a 1-inch piece. Here I have 1 pound of chicken breast, and that is also cut up into bite-sized pieces, also about 1 inch each. Here I have a 15-ounce can of black beans, and those are drained and rinsed. You could use another bean if you prefer. If you just happen to have kidney beans on hand, go ahead and use those. Don't stress too much about the specific ingredients. Just go with what you have or what you enjoy. Here I have a 14.5 ounce can of diced tomatoes with green chilies, and that's basically Rotel, but I got the store brand. But you want the larger can. The Rotels often come in a 10-ounce can. So if you do use Rotel and you can't find the larger size, you'd want 1.5 cans of that. But that is also drained of the juices, so we don't have too much liquid in here. Here I have 1 cup of our queso. We've already talked about that. I have some cooking spray because I have sprayed my 9-inch pan. I have a 9-inch, it's about 9.5-inch baking dish, about 2.5 quart. That's fine. You can use that size and it's not a problem. For our spices, we have 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And we are going to be mixing all of that together, which is why my chili powder is in a slightly larger bowl than it needs to be in. And I also did a homemade chili powder because I didn't have any on hand. I don't know how I went without having chili powder on hand. If you've seen my spice cabinet, you know that I'm pretty well stocked, but I was stocked well enough that I could make my own from a few different ingredients. And if you're interested, I'll add that to the recipe just so you can make your own chili powder. But those are all of the ingredients we're gonna need. I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees. So let me shuffle a few things around and we'll get started. Okay, so first things first. We're gonna mix together our little spice blend. my chili powder, garlic powder, onion powder, cumin, and salt. And we're just going to whisk that together just to get everything homogeneous. Now what I'm going to do is drain my potatoes. I have to drain them. As I said, that's not a step you'll need to be taking. I'm going to take 2 teaspoons of our seasoning mix and season up our potatoes, and then just toss those to coat in that seasoning. All right, so that's well coated. I'm going to bring in my casserole dish and just add in the potatoes and just make sure they're in an even layer. This size pan will give them plenty of space. All right, and now this is going to go into the oven for 15 minutes, and then we're going to season our chicken, which isn't going to take very long, obviously. But this will go in for 15 minutes because the potatoes need a little more time than the chicken will to cook. So you want to give them a little boost. Normally, once this goes in the oven, that's when I would cut up my chicken. But for the sake of the video, I have the chicken already cut up. But 15 minutes and I'll be back. Okay, we have given our potatoes a little jump start. You can see a little browning starting there. The oven is still on because obviously this is going to have to go back in because we're not just cooking potatoes. So the next part, you're going to take your chicken and you're going to put it on top of the potatoes. And this is actually going to start cooking the chicken a little bit as it gets in there on top of the hot potatoes. Put that in and spread that around as evenly as you can. You can hear a little sizzling when it touches the bottom of the pan. Now that the chicken's in there, we're going to take our tomatoes and do the same thing. Just put those on top of the chicken and spread that around, followed by our black beans. Spread those a bit. And then we're going to take the rest of our spice mix and sprinkle that on top of both of those to get that flavor permeating throughout here. And then just gently stir that a little bit to get that seasoning into the tomatoes as well as the black beans. And you can press that down a little bit to spread everything out evenly. And last but not least, our cup of queso. And you just spread that around and just do the same thing. Spread that out so that it covers everything. And it doesn't have to be overly precise. You just want it to spread out so it can seep down into everything while it's baking. And that's all there is to it. We are going to put this back into the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. If you wanted, if you were doing meal prep or you were having more people over, because this is only going to serve 4, what you could do is just double everything and put it in a 9x13 pan, and you would add 5 minutes to the cooking time on the potatoes and probably add another 5 minutes here. But for making it for 4 people, this is going for 25 to 30 minutes, and then we're done. That's it. So let me get this back into the oven, and I'll be back. And there we have it. Nice and hot and bubbly right out of the oven. My chicken potato queso roll. And now we have to let this sit for just about 5 or 10 minutes just to cool down and let everything settle. But that gives me plenty of time to go over those nutrition facts. Now I am on the Healthy Better Balance plan, which is the equivalent to the old WW Blue plan, which is around where their current plan is. But for 1 serving of this, as I said, this will serve 4. It's only going to be 5 Better Balance bites or old Blue points. And if you are following calories, the calories for 1 serving of this would be 395. And if you're following macros, the fat would be 6.6 grams. Saturated fat would be 2.1 grams. Protein would be 32.6 grams. Carbs would be 55.7 grams. Fiber would be 11.1 grams. And sugars would be 4.6 grams for 1 serving as I made it. If you need to watch your carbs and you don't want to use potatoes, and you want to bring those bites and points and calories and macros down, you could do this with some cauliflower. Cut up some cauliflower and put it in place of the potatoes. Also cook it a little bit beforehand, maybe for just about 10 minutes, because they're not as thick as potatoes, but you do want to give them a little more time in the oven as well, just because they are a denser vegetable. You could also try broccoli in here, so you don't have to do potatoes. If I can have potatoes and still not have to worry about denting my bites, points, and calories, I'm gonna do it. But that's all there is to it. Dinner in about an hour couldn't be easier, and it's so delicious. So if you liked this video and this recipe, I'd appreciate you doing the usual, like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. And if you want the recipe for this, it will be linked as usual down in the description box. I'll link directly to this recipe as well as to the blog itself. Also down there you'll find the links to my Recipes with Roy store, my Amazon storefront, Built Bar Rewards, Fetch Rewards, and my social media. I have my Instagram and 3 Facebook groups that I'm part of. So check out that description box for all sorts of information. Now it looks like it's settled down and we're ready to dig in. I hope you'll be doing the same yourself very soon, because this is delicious. So until next time, bye.